Being that it's 7 o'clock, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Michelle, can you please read the sunshine law?
This is a regular meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Keyport, Tuesday, May 18th, 2021. Let the minutes show that adequate notice of this meeting as required by Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, has been provided by the annual notice, which has been posted on the bulletin boards filed with the Borough Clerk and has been sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Independent, the Star Ledger, and the Two River Times.
Great, thank you. Can we please have a roll call?
Mayor Kennedy.
Here.
Here.
I can't hear
Here.
Michelle. Can
Yeah, I can't hear you. I'm here, but I can't hear you.
Okay. Councilmember Katopoulos.
hear.
That's better. Thank you.
Councilmember McDermott.
Here.
Councilmember Davidson.
Here.
Councilmember McNamara.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. If everyone could please join me in saluting the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everyone could please remain standing in honor of their choosing.
No, man.
Thank you. Before we open the meeting to the public for comment on the agenda item, do any council members have anything they need to discuss before we open it or need to be pulled?
Can't hear.
Excuse me? Mr. Merle? No, thank you. Anything from the council member?
Oh, yes, Mayor, I had a couple of questions on some of the resolutions. The 13221, the bonding for the library, the 50% match, is that coming from the part of the library tax, if you know, or is that going to be part of the municipal tax?
I'll defer to Jay on that one.
Yes, first of all, understand that this is a commitment to provide the match. The match is not presently provided for. It is anticipated based on the prior application that this would be in the form of municipal funds, non-library tax funds.
The 13421, the shared service with the Board of Ed, is this just a general maintenance, custodial, and public works, just kind of a interweaving of the two?
It is. You may recall that earlier this year, during the winter months, we prevailed upon the Board of Education to provide assistance during snow removal activities. This is an outgrowth of that. This is a general shared service agreement so that we have something in place if unforeseen circumstances require any number of custodial maintenance or public work services being provided to the Board of Ed or being provided by the Board of Ed.
That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Just to piggyback off of that, if you don't mind, Jay, it was also just to formalize also, just because of unions and so forth, they had requested that there be something documented. So if they were asked to come over here and assist, or if we needed to assist them, they wanted something formalized. That's correct? Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Also, just communication item number 7, just so you know, the certificate of insurance was received this afternoon by the clerk, to the clerk. So. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, a motion to open to the public for agenda items only.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any members of the public have questions on items on the agenda? If I will go by video first, by show of hands. We'll go to the phone line next.
John Merla, 34 Broad Street.
Hi, Mr. Marlowe.
Hi, Mayor. A couple questions regarding some items on the agenda. 13321 is the cameras. Is that a grant or a budget item?
Jay,
Yes, Mayor, this is, it's actually both. There are funds included in the budget to provide for the purchase of the body worn cameras and related equipment. Likewise, the chief has submitted a grant application. It is our hope that a portion of the funding will come back to us in the form of the grant. The final amount of that is yet to be determined.
So in other words, Mr. Delaney, we're paying for it and with hopes that we're getting a grant to offset the costs at a future date.
That's correct. And just to clarify, there is certainty that there will be a grant. The amount of the grant remains to be seen. As you are probably no doubt aware, the state mandate for the implementation of this is early in the year. So it is necessary for us, for the Borough of Keyport, to include the funding in the budget so that these purchases can be made and the equipment provided in a timely manner to satisfy the statutory requirement.
Okay, that was my follow-up question. Was it a state mandate or a borough choice? And you've answered that. Resolution 13221, who prepared that application on behalf of the library?
this is a continuation of the application that we submitted last year and did not go through. So it was a resubmission. Is that correct, Jay?
That's correct. It is slightly modified from the initial application that was filed in the first funding round. But this application was prepared and reviewed by both the borough engineer as well as the borough's grant writer.
Okay.
And the reason
Thank you.
any modifications were made were because when we put it in the first time, MPP ended up picking up some of those projects, right? When the original one was denied.
That is correct.
Resolution 13921, can you please explain the amendment?
We'll be getting to that one separate when we do a public, oh no, we don't do a public hearing on this one. Go ahead, Jay.
Yes, this is a result of the budget hearing that occurred at the last meeting. The result of that hearing was, and the discussion among the council, was to provide two additional increases in funding. Specifically, this amendment provides for an additional $20,000 in police salaries and wages. Additionally, it provides for $25,000 increase to and in anticipation of COVID-related costs and expenses that will cover both the costs that have been incurred year to date so far, as well as any expenses that are incurred for the balance of the year.
Thank you. My last question, Mayor, is under communications, number 7, the use of borough property for a political meet and greet. I'm totally opposed to this. We've never done this before. We take item by item. In the past 6 months, we've canceled many borough events because of the COVID regulations, and the use of borough property for a political meet and greet, I think, is totally absurd. The borough has never done this, ever, to both parties. I've never heard of it, never seen it. Last year, I was very upset that they even utilized the skate park, the League of Women Voters, to register voters. I thought that was absurd. But this is totally out of line. That's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members on the public on the phone line have agenda item questions?
Michael Lane,
Hi, Mr.
Seaport.
Lee.
When was communication item 7 added to the agenda? Because when I printed it earlier this week, it wasn't on the agenda.
It was added on Sunday.
It was added on Sunday. And the agenda was posted Friday.
And a revised one went up on Sunday.
Pardon?
A revised one went up on Sunday.
I thought Councilman Good we weren't going to do that kind of thing. Last
Councilman
minute
Good talk to what?
revisions.
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Just this, changing the agenda.
I had pulled it
All
from
right.
the agenda originally because they didn't have insurance. So it wasn't added to the agenda. There was confirmation that they were having the insurance. So I legally can't hold it on the agenda.
Building on what Councilman Good asked the questions about Resolution 124-31, the shared service agreement with the Board of Education and the Borough.
Mhm.
I found that really a loose document. Who will be the on-site supervisor for projects? How's that going to be determined? How will,
Would be between the superintendent and the business administrator.
well, we're talking about people from the Board of Education.
Right, so that would be the superintendent of the school district and Jay Delaney or whoever.
Who decides for a given project who's in
Superintendent and
charge?
administrator.
Their administrator or ours?
Both. Depends on who's needing the services.
All right. How will accounts be kept and delineated, staff hours, grade level, etc., and any union issues? I mean, in that union issue was brought up, and also if a piece of equipment is damaged, how is that responsibility going to be determined? And disciplinary issues, how is that going to be dealt with? I found this a very loose document. I would ask the council to think about it a little bit more, that it needs some more detail. Councilman committee reports. Councilman Good, redevelopment liaison. Report on any contact with the owners of the Aero Marine site regarding mitigating the significant erosion problem at this site due to the lack of bulkheads as required by the borough ordinance. And there were bulkheads at one point in time. We need to enforce that borough ordinance. Councilman Pacheco, complete streets. The demonstration project, I went up there, saw it, it looks nice. The major comment I have, and it's one I gave before, is when I walked up Osborne and then stayed on the north side of Maple and crossed to Atlantic, the only way I could do that was cross Maple Place twice. And that's really a high risk for pedestrians like me. And the traffic calming wasn't that calming. So I don't understand why we don't have sidewalks on both sides. And I asked, how could that happen? Councilman Fotopoulos, I sent out last minute a Scientific American article about fire pits. And it brings up the issues that a resident brought up about a month and a half ago regarding fire pits, that when you burn wood, it's not good for your health, especially for older folks. And I asked you to really look at that document and article from Scientific America. There's plenty of opportunity for fire pits with propane, with natural gas, with special chemicals, that you don't burn wood. And I ask you not to allow wood burning in fire pits. I live on the waterfront in a home that's now almost 100 years old, no central air, and I put air conditioners in the window. And it's really tough to sleep at night with the noise of the air conditioner. So I really enjoy the breeze from the bay cooling my house down. And when the next door neighbor was burning fire pit for 5 or 6 hours in the evening, it really wiped out the enjoyment and the ability to sleep. So I ask you to not accept wood burning for fire pits. And the article that Dennis presented at the Environmental Commission meeting, it listed about 6 other options other than burning wood: charcoal, propane, natural gas, gelled chemicals, etc. My next door neighbor, Anne Marie Reedy, has a fire pit and she burns natural gas and it doesn't put out any significant negative side effect. Councilwoman, excuse me, I'm picking up my second page. Councilwoman Davidson, your insight on the need to change the residential site improvement issues going forward. I'm sorry, wrong item. I'm sorry. Mayor Kennedy, if you could give us an update on what the timeline is for First and Waverly, the paving of the street, the underground utilities, and whether the master deed has been filed for the homeowners association. Jay, if you could give an update on the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit on Broad, that would be great. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public on the phone line? Go back through for camera. Going once, going twice. Have a motion to close to the public.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next we'll go on to committee reports. Councilman Good.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. With regard to the fire department, the April calls of service, we had 3 building fires, 4 medical assists, 1 water rescue, a natural gas leak, and a power line down. We had 30 calls for the month, totaling 135 plus man hours, with a year-to-date of 129 calls and about almost 1,100 man hours for our volunteers. On tonight, one of the communications is for the Fireman's Fair, which is the company's biggest fundraiser for the year. Last year, they weren't able to have it. So if it is allowed, come on out and spend a lot of money. The Keyport First Aid, I think most of the residents of Keyport should have received a donation mailing in the card. These are, supporting our volunteer first aid. With the exception of a small amount that the borough provides, they generally cover everything. And so this year, as well as last year, obviously they couldn't hold their bingo, which is a big fundraiser. Feel free to reach deep in your pockets. Also on the Facebook has been posted and shared around. There are multiple ways to donate, and surprisingly, it's Venmo also is included. We did have a redevelopment meeting for a redeveloper who presented an idea for the Peterson's Marina. We also, I believe we have, are scheduling something with the Air Marine. Actually, it's either the attorney or one of the developers for Air Marine, but due to litigation issues, that's all we can provide. The cannabis subcommittee, which is myself, Councilwoman Davidson, and Councilwoman McNamara, met. We are presently working on a draft ordinance, and there was discussion about hosting a subcommittee Zoom conference for some input, if we can get the correct days and dates and times available for that. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Pacheco.
Sorry about that. So the complete, I'll start with complete streets. Mr. Lane, we can certainly have conversations about adding sidewalks to that area. I think that's an important point in a worthwhile project. The project that was done over by the trail was a temporary demonstration project, and that will, it should be gone soon, or whenever, if it rains, whatever one comes first. The paint is certainly not permanent. We took away a lot of lessons from that project that will hopefully translate into a more safer permanent projects in the future. And we certainly have to begin to loop more of stakeholders, for lack of a better term, in to discuss how these projects can proceed in the future. The police committee, along with Chief Torres, Ms. London, and Jay have actually been working hard on revisions to Chapter 3, which you'll see on the agenda for introduction tonight, to make them more in line with the current state statutes. To make them more in line with the current state statutes, as they were a little outdated right now. Sorry, I have a lot of windows open right now. 1,228 calls for service in the month of April, with 51 detective case files. I'm excited to say that the assist program in the court on Wednesdays from 12:30 to 2 has begun. And that goes right into the Municipal Alliance met earlier this month to discuss program prom and lead graduation. The group also discussed working with the police department to help put together supplies for children in particular that are in need in the event they do come to the police station. And lastly, after many years of service, the coordinator, Barbara Hillard, has announced her retirement at the end of this month, and we wish her well. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Stropoulos.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to piggyback onto the Complete Streets project that Councilwoman Pacheco started. There was justifiable concern with the way the Complete Streets demonstration project was laid out in front of Raritan Hose Fire Department. That issue was addressed, and the pylons were pulled away from the parking area. I appreciate the input. I see Mr. Jimenez is on tonight. I appreciate his input, and I spoke with him briefly about the issue, and it was taken care of once we established that the county was okay with it, because the county engineer approved the project. So we needed to actually ask them first to remove the pylons. The project was all grant funded and approved, like I said, by the engineer. And in all, the response on the street has been positive once it was made clear to the residents that the borough that this was a temporary project to demonstrate bike lanes, traffic calming techniques, crosswalk designs, and safety and bump outs. The comments are continuing to, we welcome them, and they are continuing. We are nearing the culmination of a great deal of work and participation by many of the members of the community, some of whom are actually on this meeting tonight. Within the week, the design standards document, which many have been asking about, which will reflect some of the designs that you see at the demonstration project and much more, will be available for public review. The design document will be posted on the borough website, and I invite all those who are interested to review the document. We're not done yet, but the grant phase with our professionals is ending at the end of June. The documents for the foreseeable future can be considered, in my opinion, a living document. We can make changes even after the professionals are done with their work. The Finance Committee will meet tomorrow afternoon, and I have no significant update from last month's report. We're voting on the budget this evening, and I'll have more to report on the Finance Committee and its activities next month. The Recycling Committee met. There is continued concern about the gate at Florence Avenue recycling yard, and we'll need to address that this year. I'll cover that with Jay and Councilmember Davidson. The Recycling Committee would like to send out a one-page flyer about the online recycling schedule so residents can utilize that, which is readily available online by way of both the Keyport Recycles website and also the Borough website. The council will be voting by way of consent to allow a shredding event in Fireman's Park tonight, which will occur on June 5th, if approved. In years past, this has gone smoothly, and we anticipate the same this year. having lost a year to COVID last year. The Environmental Commission met, and there is continued concern about the disposition of the fill being stored at the Browns Point Marina site. KEC Chair Ken DeGroat and Vice Chair Mike Palmisano are crafting a letter of further inquiry for the developer and perhaps the council to review. In essence, the concern is what, if any, of all the debris and fill pile can be used on the marina site. It's not that clear, even after the letter from Mr. Morrow, which addressed the type of fill that can be used and repurposed throughout the site, but where wasn't made entirely clear. Tonight, we'll be discussing information materials that will be available to residents regarding safe and permitted use of the fire pits. Now, to Mr. Lane's comment, this isn't intended to establish or edit policy right now. Rather, it's just intended as an informative piece for our neighbors and citizens of Keyport to show them and just outline what is of use today, what is legal and permitted today. The white paper that is being considered tonight was used in large part with permission from the Township of Millburn Fire Bureau. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel, and it's a good piece. So we figured we'd use that. Finally, it appears that we have learned the Ospreys actually have learned over the years how to make a nest stay on the lamps at Fireman's Lot. It looks like the nest is there. I haven't seen the Ospreys there lately, but I could just be there at the wrong time. There is concern about the weight of the nest on the lamps, and the KEC is inquiring with Save Coastal Wildlife to perhaps work to prevent the ospreys from nesting up there in the future. Joe Sheridan reported that Save Coastal Wildlife organization has already deployed a number of new osprey perches throughout the Bayshore area that can be utilized. So hopefully, while we might be removing a potential site for them in the future, they will still have many, many other places to go by way of the efforts of these volunteer organizations. And I thank you for your time. And as always, I thank the citizens of the borough for entrusting me as a council member.
Thank you. Councilman McDermott.
Thank you, Mayor. First and foremost, I hope everyone's healthy and well. And as we go through these changes in CDC regulations, that we still do take some social distancing and caution to ensure that everyone that is not vaccinated is also protected, as well as those who are vaccinated from getting COVID positive, being COVID positive again. As we saw with the Yankees, you can still get COVID after you've been vaccinated. So just bear caution in that as we go through these changes of masking and unmasking in these public areas and public entities. The other thing I want to also talk about is KVBC. So one of the things that we are looking to do, we are working on revamping the whole new website. That's a project that's up and coming. So expect some updates June, July with that. The other thing that KVBC would like to do is to have events, like basically have 6 weeks of salsa lessons. So as we know, we can't have really big open music festivals or any of those things. So what we want to do is have music, but have pre-registered participants, register to dance, social distance within their circle, within their group, 2 people, and have a contest where we would, KVBC would sponsor this from late June through August, and also understanding, for example, if there's if we do approve the Fireman's Fair, we wouldn't have it during that event. We wouldn't conflict with that one. We would adjust it a week down. So we're trying to be very creative in our events in KVBC to help bring in business and visitors into Keyport. So just this is a food for thought. Nothing's official because we want to actually see if there was a consensus from the governing body, see if this would be appropriate, acceptable to even consider, because we do then have to go into contracts and, reach out to those entertainers. Would this be something of interest? The Library Construction Committee, as we saw, we have a resolution to approve up to $300,000 in library repairs with the borough match of up to $150,000. The intention is not to do $300,000. Focus is more on gaps that were not covered by MPP, such as ADA compliance. Some of those things that would be a little bit more of a high-end investment. So the grant has been submitted. Now, again, as Mayor Kennedy attests to, we did apply for this in 2020. We didn't receive it. Well, we applied for it now because they reopened the grant, and we did amend the grant to fit what was initially projected, because again, at that point, we already had NPP had given up to $50,000 in repairs to the library. So if that passes, then we could consider moving forward with submission of the grant. The last thing is MPP. MPP is moving well and completion with year one. And it is expected, all work will be done June 30th of 2021 for year one. Year two will begin on July 1st through June 30th, 2022. And the anticipation is once the state approves the budget, that we will actually have up to 90% of year two funding, right, and as well as year 3 and 5 already forecasted in the budget and sent over to the borough. And it would be a matter of just ensuring that we allocate those funds appropriately to the program. So that's some good news. But again, we have to wait for the state to approve the budget before we can commit to those. Any of the projects that, for example, the map that's on Main Street, that will be completed, along with some other pieces of punch list items that we have there. So wanted to make sure I thank everyone that's worked on the stakeholder committee, as well as the borough staff at different levels, the mayor, and the community at large, really taking some openness to this year one initiative. And also if there's any opportunities for any grants off the American Rescue Plan, that'll also be a separate program similar to what we had with the NPP COVID plan, so CARES Act. So again, these are ever evolving because we don't know, because again, nothing's approved in the budget. So we are working to make sure we communicate these out when they're finalized. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Davidson.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. So to start with construction, fire, and property maintenance, the UCC inspections for the month were 58. UCC violations issued were 0. Code enforcement inspections were 54. Rental inspections, 38. House sales, we had 10. Property maintenance summonses. I can't read my own handwriting. I'm so sorry. 66. The summonses issued were 0. Property maintenance. I'm so sorry. Give me 1 second to. Property maintenance complaints is 16. Landlord registration 67. Vacant property registration 0. And zoning applications were 33. And going back to my bad handwriting, with property maintenance inspections, that was 66. DPW, we have completed the hydrant flushing as scheduled. Let's see. There are borough properties that are on the list to be cleaned up and maintained and dealt with, and that is definitely something that we are looking at and striving towards as we improve the staffing situation with DPW. So if everybody can be patient, we are definitely working on all those properties. As far as, let's see, we have Councilwoman McNamara and myself are on the parking advisory committee with the chair, Andrew Kelsey, and 2 residents. So we've had a few meetings and we're going to continue to meet periodically. And we are obtaining data, researching, walking the parking lots in town to make sure we can provide a complete report at the end of the year. And what else do I have? The BA, we're still reviewing proposals from landscapers for the borough. So that is an ongoing process and we hope to have something solid soon, but it is a work in progress. And we are also continuing the interviewing and hiring process for public works employees. So if anybody knows anybody, please send them our way for the proper application process. That is all that I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman McNamara?
Thank you. So I will begin with recreation, trying to come up with some things for the summer. Anticipate at least one, if not two, chalk contests, with the first one being a patriotic theme, so stand by for that. Should make it fun to walk around town with all the decorated sidewalks. We have 5 tentative dates for movies, hoping to start June 30th, and then 2 after that in July and 2 in August. Cedar Street permits were issued for the Monday through Friday evenings, so that's up and running. And then on the next agenda, we will have all the specifics for the 5K planning summary. At the Senior Center, they put together a few things for Mother's Day. They had Mother's Day photos that were included in the May newsletter and movie night gift bags with some treats for pickup. There was a great slideshow on their Facebook page for Photography Month with photos submitted by their members. There's a lot of hidden talent over there. They had a good art show last year as well. Currently working with seniors at the Senior Center to get the word out on guidelines for eligibility for food vouchers. And they're exploring some options and locations for a possible outdoor picnic or barbecue. And the center was extremely grateful to the Garden Club volunteers that spent time weeding and sprucing up the front and side of the building. Special thanks to Renee Harry Taylor for coordinating that event. Green Team, first round of submission dates is June 6th. And some of the projects that are being worked on are dune grass, energy efficiency, the establishing of the creative team, community garden education and outreach, emergency systems and communications, green challenges, reestablishing and activating the BDA membership, Save the Wildlife efforts as well, which also includes some of the osprey situations. The Sustainable Jersey Summit is going on this week, so I do believe that some of the members of the group have registered for some of the sessions, and that goes on all week long. Harbor Commission, they tossed out a tentative date of August 28th for this year's Snapper contest, so stay tuned for developing information on that. They would like to work on recommendations regarding some of the signage along the waterfront. As many of us know, there are multiple signs up about things you can and cannot do. And so there have been some suggestions that perhaps doing a couple of big signs that cover the bulk of the items and maybe putting them at each end of the promenade or wherever is applicable might be a better way to deal with that. So we'll be exploring that and revisiting the ordinances that are mentioned. Hoping to get some cleanup parties on the calendar, and there was some discussion about the kayak lockers showing some wear and some warping, and wondering if any of the pieces could be replaced or possibly at least painting some of the plywood to prevent further deterioration. Harbor Commission complimented the beach park efforts of our DPW and the Union Beach Assistance, and curious as to whether we could see shared services agreement with Union Beach. And wondered if there were any updates regarding parking issues and future plans at Browns Point regarding jet skis, charters, and boat storage. The creative team, Michelle Knox and I met with county reps that will be working on a geo-mapping project that will help with the creative asset inventory project. And the first official team meeting will be May 27th. And although this is not a specific liaison position, the Historical Society, the group did ask me to convey that they will be reopening their doors to the public on Sunday, June 6th, between 1 and 4 p.m. with limited interior access. They will also be offering visits by appointment, hopefully 7 days a week through the end of September. And we're all pretty excited that the women's suffrage exhibit that a lot of work went into and was scheduled to open a year ago is now in a position where it'll be able to be viewed by the public. So hope folks can get out there and support that society and the work that they've done. And that's it.
Thank you. Before I move on to mayor's updates, Mr. Taylor, would you be able to provide an update on the First and Waverly project that Mr. Lane inquired about?
Yes, good evening, Mayor. I will reach out to the applicant or the developer to get an update on that. I have not heard back from them since our last letter 2 weeks ago. I will reach out to him again and try to get an update from them.
Did we send that letter certified?
I did not, but I can send another one that is certified.
That would be great. Thank you. A few mayor's updates. Met with members of the Keyport Assist. We had a photo op for members of the governing body with them through the efforts of Chief Torres. So thank you, Chief Torres. Jay and I had our collaboration meeting with the Board of Education and the superintendent. Jay and I also met with the management of Oyster Bay Apartments along with Keyport Police Department regarding their final phases of construction. I attended the American Legion meeting and to review the initiatives that are being revisited by the Veterans Committee. I participated and held a meeting to have open dialogue between MPP and KBBC for the Archway initiatives, since they're both looking into the same topic. So that way we make sure we're all unison. Jay and Trevor participated in that meeting as well. Attended the Keyport School District track ribbon cutting, which is exciting for our community as a whole, as well as the students that are in the school district to finally have an official track. Attended the KBBC meeting. Councilman McDermott mentioned the updates on that. Attended the Library Board of Trustees meeting, and they continue their search efforts for a new director. Attended a joint meeting with Nicole Henn and Shauna Bolu regarding a potential APIX software app program to see if the borough would be interested in that. This afternoon, I attended a tour of the new emergency room at Bayshore Hospital with fellow members, Bayshore Mayors Association, and attended a meeting this afternoon with members of the school district and Jay and Chief Torres and Lieutenant Ruth regarding the wave parade that they want to hold on June 21st. Okay. There's a couple other things, but I'm going to bring them up under new business. Next, we have the consent agenda. We have items 131-21 through 138A-21. Jay, could you give an update on the 138A-21 and just where they're at with those initiatives and the updates you had received today?
Yes, Mayor. I spoke with the on-site manager at the apartment facility, and they are still moving ahead with the anticipated start date that would require the road closure beginning on or about May 24th. There is, at this time, they do not have a need for any kind of shuttle service, but they've requested that option remain open as they are pursuing alternate arrangements for on-site parking facilities.
You mean off-site?
Yes, off-site.
Right. Okay. Does any members of council have any questions on 131-21 through 138A-21? I have a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second. Sorry, I was on mute.
Please have a roll call, Michelle.
I'm sorry, you cut out. Was that me?
Councilmember Gray?
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman?
Yes.
Councilmember Fotopoulos.
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember David Henson.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Thank you. Next, we have resolution R13921, which is the amending the introduced 2021 municipal budget. Jay, do you want to take this from here?
Yes, Mayor. This is, as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, a follow-up to the discussion among the council after the public hearing on the budget held at the last meeting. The budget rules of the state of New Jersey do require that this amendment be read in its entirety. So if you'll bear with me. This is Borough of Keyport, County of Monmouth resolution. Whereas the local municipal budget for the year 2021 was approved on the 6th day of April 2021. And whereas the public hearing on said budget has been held as advertised, and whereas it is desired to further amend said approved budget at this time. Now therefore be it resolved by the governing body of the Borough of Keyport, County of Monmouth, that the following amendments to the approved budget of 2021 be made. In the general budget, current fund anticipated revenues, the general revenues, item number 1, surplus anticipated, together with the total surplus anticipated, and the summary of revenues, surplus anticipated, all of which are being increased from $1,100,000 to $1,120,000, bringing the total general revenues at line 7 from a total of $10,779,216.82 to $10,799,216.82. That is not a change. On the appropriation side, item number 8, general appropriations, line A, within operations, within caps, under administrative and executive other expenses. That budget is being reduced from $72,100 to $71,100. Under police department, salary and wages increased from $2,480,000 to $2,500,000. Within the police department, under other expenses miscellaneous, the appropriation of $90,000 is being reduced to $88,000. Under the line item for emergency management services, other expenses, that line being reduced from $14,000 to $13,000. The line item for road repair and maintenance, salary and wages, being reduced from $534,000 to $519,000. The line item for public buildings and grounds, other expenses, being reduced from $9,000 to $84,000. The net effect of those changes in appropriations, the lines for total appropriations within caps, as well as the total appropriations, including the contingent within caps, it's being reduced from $7,196,000. I'm sorry, $7,196,645 to $7,191,645. The detail, salaries and wages, increasing from $4,072,800 to $4,076,800. Other expenses being reduced from $3,123,845 to $3,114,845, bringing the total for general appropriations for municipal purposes within caps being reduced from $8,187,078 to $8,182,078. Continuing, the appropriations excluded from caps, the line item for declared state of emergency costs for coronavirus response pursuant to NJSA 40A:4-45.45B and 40A:4-45.3 (BB), that appropriation is increasing from $0 to $25,000. Total other appropriations excluded from caps increasing from $248 to $295,248. Total appropriations excluded from caps increasing from $653,031.70 to $678,031.70. The detail other expenses increasing from $612,031.70 to $637,031.70. Continuing with the totals and subtotals, line H2, the total general appropriations for municipal purposes excluded from caps, that amount is increasing from $2 million, $2,019,611.70 to $2,044,611.70. And that is the same change for the total appropriations excluded from caps. The subtotal general appropriations, items H1 N 0, or actually line O, increasing from $10,206,689.70 to $10,226,689.70, bringing the total general appropriations increasing from $10,779,216.82 to $10,799,216.82. The summary of the appropriations, total general appropriations for municipal purposes within caps being reduced from $8,187,078.00 to $8,182,078.00. The operations excluded from caps, other operations, increasing from $270,248 to $295,248. The total appropriations excluded from caps, $653,031.70, increasing to $678,031.70. The total general appropriations increasing from $10,779,216.82 to $10,799,216.82. Be it further resolved, the two certified copies of this resolution be filed forthwith in the Office of the Director of Local Government Services for certification of the local municipal budget so amended. Mayor, that's the reading of the resolution in its entirety. As referenced in the previous meeting, this provides for an increase in the use of surplus in the amount of $20,000, an increase in the appropriation for salary and wages under police in the amount of $20,000, and an increase for the line item for anticipated costs related to the state of emergency for the coronavirus response in the amount of $25,000. The net effect of these changes, there is no increase in the amount to be raised from taxes. The use of surplus and the reduction in the various line items that I just went through provides for the additional funds for those two line items.
Thank you. Just for point of clarification, and maybe I misunderstood, but when you went through the first part, the general budget, and you read line number 7, total general revenues. Obviously, I don't want to rewind the tape right now.
Yes.
But I thought you had said that there was no change there, but there is from the 10,779,216.82 to 10,799,216.82.
Your numbers are correct. If I had mistakenly
I may have
indicated that it was
misheard
not
you.
changed, I apologize.
Okay. Thank you, Jay.
And Mayor, just to clarify, the process is that the budget hearing was held at the previous meeting. This amendment needs to be approved or presumably approved by the governing body at this time. And then the next step would be to adopt the budget as amended.
Thank you. Just a reminder that and part of this was due to different legislation that came out from the state regarding police topics after the introduced budget, which is why a lot of that had to be done. Okay. Any questions from the council members on the resolution to amend the budget? If not, can I please have a motion to approve R 13921, amending the introduced 2021 municipal budget?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second, go pick them up. Thank you.
Have a roll call, please, Michelle.
Councilmember Good.
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes.
Councilmember Fotopoulos.
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
And Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Thank you.
So next we have the adoption of the 2021 municipal budget. Michelle, if you could read that by title.
The municipal budget of the Borough of Keyport, County of Monmouth, New Jersey for the year 2021.
Resolution R 12921, adopting the 2021 municipal budget, which was tabled at the May 4th meeting until this amendment could be made. I would need a motion for that, please.
Motion to approve the amended budget.
A second.
Second.
Can I have a roll call, please, Michelle?
Councilmember Good.
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes.
Councilmember Fotopoulos.
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
No.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Next, we have the introduction of ordinances. Number 1, ordinance amending Chapter 3 of Article 1 of the Police Department of Borough Code. Could you please read that by title, Michelle?
This is an ordinance of the Borough of Keyport, County of Monmouth, New Jersey, amending and superseding Chapter 3, Article 1, Police Department of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Keyport in its entirety.
Have a motion to introduce.
Motion.
Mayor,
Oh,
Mayor, before we introduce, I had a couple of items. I know I spoke with Chief Torres about so we wouldn't have to introduce it, then make a change if necessary, that I'd like to point out. With regard to the appointments, I guess, it looks like it's about 3-6 subsection C. Reading through this, it doesn't appear that the council is involved in the actual, I guess, resolution hiring the police officers. I mean, I understand the procedure that they're looking to do, which is kind of, I believe, streamline that, and that the business administrator, who's the appointing authority, is going to, I guess, I won't say make that decision, but at least give a who he or she believes would be the best candidate. But it doesn't have in here anything about the council actually doing anything about it. That seems to be missing out of this, and I wanted to know, I guess, where that went in. I probably think it was somewhat of an oversight, but the only other item is subsection 3-11, the uniform and equipment. While I believe that the police commissioner would make an excellent person to design the uniforms. I have suggested that we outfit the police department like the Swiss Guard with the pantaloons and everything. Chief Torres says that they have a uniform policy, I guess, that is part of their rules and regulations. So I believe that a change would be in order to say that the apparel and equipment will be prescribed as directed in the Keyport Police, or as directed by the Keyport Police Department.
You want Keyport Police Department or the chief, so that way there's at least a designated person. I would say the chief, so that it's, you know, anyone, then if you leave it wide open to the department, then they can potentially in the future.
Well, if we're gonna say that, then we should say chief or designate, so that way the chief could, you know, designate somebody else. Yeah. At their wish.
I mean, I'll defer to Chief Torres what the exact language would be, but I just I think that police commissioner probably it was an oversight.
Chief Torres, are you okay with it saying Keyport Police Chief?
Yes, Mayor, that would be best for us, since ultimately myself and I make the policies, and then with the administration, we put it out. So once a policy is established, it would automatically go into effect. We have a uniform policy, so by putting the chief, if I wasn't here or something, the captain, the lieutenants, they know to enforce it.
Regarding his first question, Jay or Councilman Pacheco, or Chief Torres, do you want to comment to that?
Yeah, Mayor, if you'd like me to address that. It is somewhat of a subtle point. The paragraph that Council President Good references regarding the appointments, it refers to, in making such appointments, the appointing authority, which is a civil service designation, which in our case is the governing body. But to clarify that, it may be best so that we do have the definitions in the at the head of the article, that perhaps it would be best to clarify that by indicating that the appointing authority, in accordance with civil service, shall be the governing body.
The appointing authority as opposed to the appropriate authority, which is the borough administrator.
Correct. It's I actually, when we were reviewing the draft, it was the same question that had come up, the appointing authority versus appropriate authority. You have two different segments of state government using similar but distinct titles.
Which paragraph are you referencing?
This is in section, it starts at 3-6, appointment, paragraph C, order of appointments. The pages are not numbered, but it is the 4th page.
Got it. And you're suggesting the terminology be changed to?
Or that that terminology remain, but that the definition of appointing authority specifically identify the governing body as the appointing authority.
You're talking about an F?
Actually, the definitions are on the 2nd page.
3-1.
Section 3-1.
But then it's referenced again in F and making temporary appointments the appointing authority.
Well, temporary appointments are a different animal. I believe the intent is to provide, in the case of need, that temporary appointments can be made.
Well, that's the appropriate authority versus the appointing authority, and the appropriate authority is defined as the borough administrator.
Right.
That's what it's the word appointing versus and appropriate, which I guess threw me off a little bit.
So do they need to be changed anywhere? In F or C or G?
Yeah, I would defer to the attorney's view of those specific references.
Leslie?
Yeah, it seems like maybe the definition should be appointing authority versus appropriate authority. And then throughout globally, be changed to appointing authority. And as you said, and that definition shall be the governing body.
So the suggestion is add appointing authority and their definitions and say that is defined as the governing body of the Borough of Keyport.
Yes.
That works for me.
Can I ask a quick question? I was trying to look through my drafts. I have no problem with any of this, but I thought we were trying to mirror the language in the statute. So are we not doing that now, or is this just a kind of a friendly edit?
There is no state statute for hiring process other than this was to remove the part where all 7 governing bodies had to review all personnel files.
Okay.
So there would be the appointing, right, Councilman Pacheco?
Yeah.
It would still be the governing body appointing the final say of the recommendations of the chief is what I'm understanding. Is that what you're getting, Councilman Good too?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
that was.
And that's what you wanted, right?
Yep. 40.
Did you say something? Councilman Pacheco, you said or the BA?
No, I was looking at something. I'm okay with this edit.
Okay. So, Councilman Good, can you summarize what the edits would be?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. It would be to add under Article 1, 3-1 definitions, add appointing authority in capital, mirroring the font as to say that the governing body of the Borough of Keyport. And Section 3-11, uniform and equipment, replace the term police commissioner with the chief of police or her designee.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion to, yes, that's a motion to amend the draft yet?
I'll second. I'll find these to be friendly.
Mayor, I think you're muted.
All right, Councilman Good, you would need to motion to introduce with those edits. You just
I
said.
move to introduce with those edits.
I think you were
Second.
seconding Councilman Pacheco. Can I have a roll call, please, Michelle?
Councilmember
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco,
Yes.
Councilmember Hopkins,
Yes.
Councilmember
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson, Councilmember McNamara,
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion authorizing the clerk to publish the ordinance as introduced in the Asbury Park Press for public hearing?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or no? Okay, next we have communications by consent. Here are items number 1 through 7. There are none to receive and file. As noted earlier, there was a certificate of insurance received to the clerk today. Does anyone have any questions on these items?
Mayor, just procedurally, the item number 1, is that something that will follow with a formal?
Yes,
Or is this just?
after, if they approve that, that's what they're.
Okay.
In regards to item number 7, when I was first contacted by the request, and knowing past protocol has always been no, even when I wanted to hold political events, I had reached out to Jay and Miss Linden to see what regulations do permit. Ms. Linda, do you just mind giving a quick summary on what the differences are regarding outdoor, indoor, what's allowed to happen, and what's not allowed to happen?
Or under the New Jersey Campaign Contributions and Expenditure Reporting Act, it does provide in that statute the solicitation, or provides that you can't solicit contributions and fundraising on public property. And public property is defined as a building as opposed to an outdoor area. And it does also provide that if you have in a public building or property, if you have the ability, or you provide for a non-governmental purpose for meeting, that if it's an incidental use where you solicit contributions, that is okay, but you have to open it up to everyone. So in this case, when you have a outdoor facility being used, the law does not prohibit solicitation or political events there. You can have an ordinance that prohibits it, but if your ordinance does not specifically state that, then it can be used, and it has to be used as you would with any other entity that's requesting to use the public park.
And because it's not stated in the actual ordinance, would past practice hold true here, as it was mentioned earlier, or would we be able to process this?
Part of your ordinance. There are several ordinances that other municipalities have that are explicit as to what activity can happen in public property, and public property is defined. And most of the ordinances that I did review, public property excluded outside areas. It was more geared towards buildings.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Any members of the council have any questions on items 1 through 7?
I'm sorry, maybe I was a bit confused. So, Leslie, are you saying that we would have to treat this request from a campaign the same as we would any entity, like if the first aid wanted to, the fire department wanted to, or really any applicant, I guess, for use of borough property?
Yes, property outside, not a building.
Yeah, I'm property outside. Yes.
Yeah.
So
unless your ordinance specifically provides or prohibits against public property, which includes outside activity, from having that type of activity. But your ordinance would have to be specific as including public property, as including buildings, parks, outside areas, things of that sort.
okay,
Councilor
so
Good, I think in summary, it is something that needs to be cleaned up, and another ordinance that needs to be reviewed as far as the whole process of borough use of property.
I concur. Unfortunately, we're probably not going to be able to do that before dealing with this communication. So I'm just trying to figure out if we actually have any if there is any decision to be made, as opposed to walking into some kind of, I hate to say, some kind of issue with regard to the failure to treat this campaign event the same as would any other entity requesting the use of a park.
That could be raised, since the state statute does not prohibit this type of activity at the outdoor public facility.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. London, can you just confirm, just for my understanding, that there is no campaigning that can occur at this time, fundraising? Is that what you stated?
In a public building. So, and yes, in a public building, you cannot have fundraising in a public building.
The public space at this point can.
Because it's an outside versus a building. Unless, again, your ordinance specifically provides for that you can't do it.
Thank you. Do any other members of the governing body have any questions? I know the last meeting, there was a lot of discussion regarding the dates that had been requested for the closure of Fireman's Lot for the Fireman's Fair. So they submitted new dates. Has anyone checked the tide schedule and all that kind of stuff?
Mayor, I didn't check the tide schedule, but in my conversation with Mr. Olson, who is the chair of the Firemen's Committee, they work around the tide schedule. So while I thought it ran on a monthly cycle, and I thought maybe they couldn't do this until August, Mr. Olson tells me that this time period is fine for the tides. But I'll rely upon his representation, but I didn't check it myself. So that's, at least we had the discussion, and that was what was informed.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of the governing body? So being that there's none, I would need a motion to approve items 1 through 7. Or if there's any abstention on any of them.
Motion.
Is your motion for approval of all
Oh,
7?
yeah, I'm sorry, motion to approve 1 through 7.
Got a second? Is there a second?
Actually, Mayor, before I'll second it, but I do have another question about whether or not there will be a conflict for myself and Councilman Fotopoulos, since we are also on, I guess, the ballot for this, I guess, the primary, and that this is a Democratic Senate event. So I guess there's that question.
Ms. London, would they be able to vote on item 7 is what they're asking? Councilman Fotopoulos and Councilman Good are both up for election this year and on the line of the party that's requesting item number 7.
I would probably rule you should stay away just from the appearance. I'm not sure it's an actual, because it's a use that can happen, but just so that you don't have any type of appearance, it may be best to abstain from that.
Thank you. With that said, I probably shouldn't second then, because I'm doing 1 through 6. So
Anyone else willing to second 1 through 7? Victoria did. Can we roll call, please, Michelle?
Councilmember Good,
yes, 1 through 6 for communications, 1 through 6. I abstain on number 7.
Councilmember Pacheco,
Yes.
Councilmember Fotopoulos,
Yes on 1 through 6, abstain on 7.
Councilmember McDermott,
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson, Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have minutes for approval. I'm requesting that there be one update on page 1 under the first item under the proclamation, where I had requested for R8921 for that to be pulled till the next meeting. I'm just asking if at the end of that sentence, it could have by request of the Kiwanis, which was set on tape. So if everyone's okay with that, I would need approval for March 16th minutes with that edit.
Motion for approval with Mayor Kennedy's recommendation as noted.
Is there a second?
Second,
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Good,
Yes.
Councilmember Fotopoulos,
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott,
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara,
yes.
Councilmember Pacheco. Did I skip you? I apologize.
Yeah, you did. It's okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have reports of department. Number 1, municipal clerk's report for April 2021. Number 2, tax water sewer collectors report for April 2021. Number 3, Board of Health Treasurer's report for April 2021. Number 4, building department monthly report for April 2021. Number 5, municipal court monthly report for April 2021. Number 6, Keyport Parking Advisory Committee report for April 2021. Number 7, Keyport Fire Department PIO PR report dated April 29th, 2021. Can I have a motion to accept and file?
Motion.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any no or abstain? Great. Next, we go on to the topic of fire pit safety. Councilman Fotopoulos had worked with compiling different brochures, so to speak, and things that could potentially be printed, maybe put in water bills and so forth. We did receive some inquiries last November regarding outdoor use of fire pits when the wind direction is going to people's homes, especially if they have health concerns. There was not a clear understanding of what jurisdiction it fell under. Was it a police matter? Was it a fire marshal matter? Environmental matter? So it did get circulated kind of through all of those top departments. I know it got carried over until January, I believe, Councilman Fotopoulos, to the Environmental Committee because the December meeting had been canceled. And then, as you had mentioned in your committee report, you did some searching to see what other municipalities use and guidance that they provide. Would you like to speak to this further, Councilman Fotopoulos?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As it appears, that's pretty much what we're hoping to send around on social media, and a 3-up might work as well with the water bill. But I did have a discussion with Councilmember McNamara, and she brought up a valid point. If I can turn it over to Councilmember McNamara to reiterate that point.
just refresh me on which part of the conversation, if you don't mind.
It was the fireworks, Councilmember. It was the fireworks.
Oh, I think that, let me just see here.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. We don't have, so what we might do is there's open burning includes but may not be limited to portable open burning clay solid. It defines it in the 4th paragraph. It specifies fireworks of any kind, including firecrackers and sparklers, that shouldn't be thrown into these. One would think it was common sense. And the light, and then right below that, sky lanterns is also addressed, and bonfire and the lighting of fireworks is prohibited. I think there was a question of whether or not Councilmember McNamara, if it was actually already addressed in our ordinances based on the email that you sent me.
I know that at a state level, certain fireworks were okayed. I mean, it's very limited. I think that was part of it as well.
So the lighting off of fireworks I think we defer to, we could say something like the lighting off of prohibited fireworks is probably a way to handle that in the guidance.
Are you asking me? I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
Councilman
Mayor, I'm
McNamara.
sorry. Please feel free to chime in if you want, Mayor, but I was actually asking Councilmember McNamara, but yeah, please feel free to chime in. I think prohibited fireworks will solve the issue, solve the input that we were talking about, solve that discussion. And then we can let them go.
Okay, but part of the other conversations was, you know, when it becomes a public health safety for another member of our public, what is the policy in regards to, do they contact the police department, or do they contact the fire marshal? And what would the process be if the smoke of someone's fire pit is in direct proportion and going into the windows of an adjoining property?
Right.
Do we define what the process is going to be?
Say that is, we're off fireworks now and on to something else, but yeah. So our ordinance doesn't, this again, like what I said earlier in the meeting, our ordinance specifically states that you can't burn certain materials, and charcoal wood burning is not one of them. Admittedly, I have a smoker, and that's something that we can talk about and discuss moving forward. But really, this is addressing the permitted use of existing law, and I think it addresses it almost to the T, outside of outside of specifying prohibited fireworks shouldn't be used.
Right, but my understanding is that the fire marshal had said that there was something else in the municipal ordinances that indicated about anything that's causing a public health issue to any member of the public or residents. It can't happen. So in that case, if a resident is, can't open their windows, who do they contact? Jay, did we get to the bottom of this?
Mayor, I think Kathleen has her hand up.
McNamara?
You're muted, Kathleen.
You're muted.
Okay. I was able to go back and look at, I don't disagree that we want to address things with neighbors, but the information that I read that was put in this that would then be proposed to go out to the public doesn't really address that, because what it's addressing is open burning, which is not the same as recreational fires, unless anything was changed in this document from the first time I saw it. So, and recreational fires, the only specifications really had to do with the distance from structures or combustible material. So I don't think that this in any way addresses the concerns. I think that would have to be a whole nother thing with the fire. And then if I add in Mr. Lane's piece, which I got a quick look at, it said, if you do end up using wood in a backyard fire pit, after they said that it wasn't necessarily the best choice, but if you must light that backyard fire pit, that they recommend using only seasoned firewood and burning it in a way that promotes complete combustion, and small fires were better. So none of this addresses the neighbor issue, and I think we would have to just take that on as a whole separate thing.
Right. Yeah. That goes to the actual law, I think, Mayor.
Well, yeah, what Tony Vecchio, the fire marshal, had replied back in December was that the revised general ordinance of the Borough of Keyport under police regulation is ordinance 4-18.14 is maintaining a nuisance. No person shall knowingly or recklessly create or maintain a situation or condition which endangers the health or safety of the public. And then his reference to that is that so smoke blowing into someone's windows would be a nuisance and should be shut down under the ordinance.
So I guess was the question who to call at that point? It would be,
Yes,
if that's the
how
question,
the song
then,
got circulated, yes.
yeah, then it would, to me, it would be the police to enforce the borough police code.
Okay. And then it coincided with also bringing it into environmental, just because the topic of what is allowed to be burned and so forth. So clarification, Jay, would be that, is Chief Torres still on here?
The chief
she's
is
logged in, but I'm not sure that she's there. Oh, there she is.
I'm here. I'm listening. I'm following along. And for us to write, first of all, I'll just address that we've never wrote a maintaining a nuisance for that. We've always used maintaining a nuisance for an issue with a landlord and such, when they're having a large amount of calls, such as loud noise, you know, when you're having smoke blowing into a neighbor's window, that would have to be like an ongoing problem for maintaining a nuisance. So if somebody calls on a first time that they're saying a neighbor is possibly, number one, burning firewood. I mean, there's a lot of issues with using maintaining a nuisance for that type of call. I feel like Leslie can probably, Miss London can probably expand on that, but I think that opens us up to a lot of issues for using that specific ordinance. Number one, like now your police going on, we have to go look and see what they're burning. That's an issue for us to try to get on someone's property for an ordinance of what they're specifically burning. I could just think of a lot of reasons why this specific ordinance could be an issue for us to use in charging when someone calls on saying that their neighbor's burning a specific type of untreated firewood.
Well, going back to the earlier comment of controlled burning or open burning, sorry, that's the word. Who would they call then at those point if you know, like you're not supposed to burn leaves, right? Councilman Papadopoulos, all that kind of stuff. So if someone was doing that, who gets called?
So we have been called for stuff like that. And we've called the fire marshal if it's a dangerous situation, if it becomes like an open burning. We've called out, we've documented it, we've made them put it out and then documented it and forward it over to the fire marshal. There's been times when we've even had a picture of an open fire pit and then forwarded it the next day. With situations like that, there's not a need for a fire marshal to come out immediately because you can call us, we'll make documentation and then forward it to the appropriate authority from there.
Okay, so in the instance, maybe a resident might be on oxygen or something and smoke from someone else's fire pit is coming into their home. The police can enter their home and see the smoke is coming in there and they can take it from that point as then they're not going on to another resident's property. Would that be an okay way to handle this?
Yes, we would always get involved in, obviously we do it every day. We try to mediate a situation like that to see if we can come up with both parties. We try to get them because they're neighbors. We mediate neighbors all day. So that would be a situation where we would absolutely respond and try to mediate right then and there. If it becomes an ongoing problem, we'll start to get more involved with documentation and we'll call the appropriate, whether it be a charge from the fire marshal, whether it be an illegal fire pit, an open burning, we'll go from there. But each situation will be differently, but we would absolutely get involved if we saw an open window and somebody was on oxygen and it was causing them not to be able to breathe.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, Mayor. Thank you.
And then Councilman Fitopoulos, or any members of the governing body, do you have any thoughts on the information Councilman Fitopoulos circulated?
Hi, it's Councilwoman McDermott. I think at this point, it seems that this is overlapping to a lot of different groups. It doesn't fit everything that we're attempting to address, just like Councilman McNamara said. And also, I do know that the police committee is working on Chapter 4, which is some of the roles and duties of the police department, which I think this may fall under. So I just, at this point, I don't know, this is not addressing, I think, what was the initial intent. And also, we also need to understand in New Jersey, you can purchase now fireworks and stuff. So like if, I mean, no one should be putting those in a fire pit, but there are people who will have them in the backyards and things like that. So I think there's a lot of work that still needs to be done with this.
Are we talking about a lot of work with the ordinance? I agree with that because, okay, yeah. But as it stands, the information that we're going to be putting out is concurs with, outside of the word prohibited fireworks, it concurs with the existing ordinances.
It's just there's a lot of pieces here. That what I'm saying here is there's a lot of pieces in the draft that are contradicting or incomplete with other pieces of this. Like when we said, like you guys talk about, whether it's preserved wood, what will be put in a fire in a fireplace. Is that appropriate? Is that not appropriate? So I just think there's pieces that probably need to be looked at closer with this before we publish it.
I don't think he was ready to publish anything. I think he just was trying to get dialogue going and was trying to pull different pieces. But yes, there's going to be pieces that overlap, and that's I think that's why he's looking for input. Correct, Councilman Fitopoulos?
Sure, pleasure of the council. I actually thought that it was ready to go based on the existing statutes without diving deep into the changing of the ordinance. But if you want to wait, I still recommend at the very least we share the flyer, maybe not the white paper, but the flyer is pretty specific about some of this stuff. So fire pit safety. But if not, it's okay. We were asked to do it, so we did it, and that's where we are at this point.
Is anyone opposed to the fire pit safety being posted on the borough website in a couple places, maybe under the fire marshal part on the main page? Maybe the environmental page, so that it's in multiple points of references for the fire that he provided.
This, by the way, was also, as you can see, published by another website at the bottom of that page.
Mm-hmm. And then we could table the actual wording of this draft that he proposed. Everyone okay with that? Or should I say, is anyone opposed to that? And I think
I'm fine as long as Chief Torres, because they're going to get, the police department's going to get the calls on this, as long as they know how to support this.
I would just ask if there's any questions regarding police regulations that that someone come to me about it, only because sometimes the interpretation of the police regulations might be construed differently. So if there's a need to interpret a police regulation, that I would like to be included in that conversation.
Absolutely, and but this doesn't change anything in police regulations or even our ordinances. This is really just informational.
Right.
So
the flyer, you mean?
The flyer.
Yeah, I don't even.
So I don't think anyone.
White
right,
paper
I think
too, but we're not going to edit the white paper.
Everyone's okay with the flyer being posted, correct?
Yes.
And then we're going to table the written document for the borough. Okay. Sorry. A couple other items under new business. Memorial Day, and the American Legion will be doing their traditional annual ceremonies at the different locations throughout the borough. When I did attend their meeting, I did ask when they do the waterfront, if they could consider doing one of their ceremonies at the World War I memorial area. And they were amenable to that. They're going to be providing the times and start times, and we'll make a flyer for them, which we've done the last several years because they don't have the means to do that. I don't see any objection to that because, as sad as it is, it's not a large gathering, although I wish it was something a lot more members of the public came out to. I think it's a great tradition what our American Legion does when they provide those ceremonies. Unless there's any objection from the governing body from that occurring. The next item would be regarding the salsa lessons that Councilmember McDermott, mentioned during the KBBC report. It is a proposal potential for the next meeting of KBBC. If they circulate it to the board, kind of music and movement Mondays, because that would be the only evening that Mini Park is available. We've consulted with the business owners, and from Thursday to Sunday, they often have live entertainment outside. Wednesdays are going to be movie nights, and Tuesdays potentially going to be yoga. So that leaves Monday for that area to be utilized without having sound interfering with something. Just want to know the pleasure of council. If anyone's opposed to that, from them moving further dialogue on that. Is there anyone opposed to that? Okay. The other item was earlier we had started a cultural committee, and last year actually I had reached out to Pastor Pettis and several other members of the community because Juneteenth day actually falls on a Saturday this year. We had been on hold because we weren't sure what outdoor gathering limits were going to be. It's about a month away. So I would like to reconvene the people that I was speaking to this about, and maybe have something small at Mini Park for an hour or so. I can present more on June 1st, unless anyone's opposed to further conversation of just whether it's just a small acknowledgement. We'll do a proclamation for the day again. But there's different topics that I present on June 1st, unless anyone, the governing body, is opposed to that. Okay, hearing no objections to that. The next thing I would like to request is an ad hoc committee regarding reopening phases as things are starting to loosen up. I think we have to discuss things. We had said no committee meetings happening in Borough Hall. I'm understanding some are. So they all have to be, there are processes to make sure they all go through Mr. Delaney, so proper sanitizing takes place. But otherwise, we are going to have to start considering letting members of the public in eventually. So I'm asking, since the departments that are directly affected by that would be Finance, Board of Health Registrar, I'm asking if Councilman Fatopoulos would be willing to serve on a small committee along with Councilwoman Davidson, since she represents the Building Construction Office and the MPP, and Councilman President Good as the council president, and the second person for Senior Center, which is another building that discussions have to happen. And then that if the three of you are willing to meet with Jay to discuss reopening phases of 1, 2, and 3, maybe slowly rolling things open June, July, and August for municipal buildings.
I have no objection, but tomorrow the day when we're opening, or no? When not we are, but when the mandates are being lifted and we're going 100%?
100% outside, but for
And
no masks. But for buildings, it's still masked, so we're not opening anything yet.
okay, I'm willing to serve.
Councilmember, good. I didn't hear anything you said.
Sorry, my unmute was not going. Happy to help out.
And then you guys can present something maybe to the governing body at the June 1st meeting of what your planned phases are. Great. So you guys can work that out and figure out a meeting time with Jay. Thank you. Unfinished business. Do we have any updates on, I'm sorry, do any other council members have new business? Unfinished business, road opening on Main Street. Do we have anything further on that, Jay or Leslie?
Mayor, I don't have any update to report, but prior to the last meeting, I distributed some information, I believe, from the borough engineer. Trevor is on. There was a specific recommendation from Trevor's office on addressing the most recent incident with the road opening. There are some changes that will be recommended to our existing road opening permit scheme. I don't know if you want us to go into any further discussion concerning the issue we had with New Jersey Natural Gas and that specific restoration issue.
I would be willing to table this conversation to the next meeting if anyone's opposed to that. Thank you, and thank you, Trevor. Well, Jay, maybe we'll have some conversations on the before the next meeting. Also, we have Sunday games at Cedar Street Park. Councilwoman McNamara, do we have further information on that?
No, the one interested group did not reapply, so at this time I have nothing. I mean, if anybody has any comments that they want to share in case that does come up, I'm more than willing to hear it, but we don't have an issue at this point.
Okay, so can we remove that from unfinished business moving forward? Okay, thank you. Attorney's report?
I don't have any.
Sorry. I didn't see Councilmember McNamara had her hand up.
I just had a quick unfinished business. The 316 minutes that we went through, we had tabled the license agreement 9021. That was with the 19 Division Street LLC with the egress for 7 Division Street. And I was just wondering if anything happened with that or with the status, if there's any update.
Yes, there's no change in the status of that. License agreement goes back some 10 years. We are still searching for some information. The property owner has indicated verbally that they do not wish to pursue it. We're not sure what implication that has for us. Trying to dig up the original records on the development of that site, which appears to have been what initiated the need for the license agreement to begin with. So we have not forgotten about it, but it is not ready for any formal action at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Attorney's report.
I don't have a report, Mayor, this evening.
Thank you.
Mayor, just if I may, 2 quick items. Just in response, Mr. Lane earlier in the meeting had requested an update on the status of the speed limit signs. I reported at the last meeting we did meet with the county. We are waiting for their response to that issue, as well as a number of other traffic related and signage issues. We will follow up with the county. They did explain to us when we met with them that they expected it would be about 30 days before they would be able to provide us with a timeline. And additionally, I think it came up at the last meeting, the borough engineer has provided preliminary drawings for improvements to Church Street. At this time, we will be meeting with the committee to review some issues related to some water and sewer needs. But if it is the governing body's pleasure, we can have a more formal presentation at an upcoming meeting. If that's the desire of the governing body to review it as a body, or whether there are those that wish to, we will be walking the site within the next week to 10 days and reviewing the preliminary plans in detail. If anyone has an interest in that, obviously not to have everyone participate in that preliminary meeting, but as we will report from that meeting to the full council, more than likely at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Jay, when are we going to go out to bid on that for, when's your anticipated date for the improvements to church?
Trevor is on, I believe, for that project. That's anticipated to be go out to bid during the summer months. With again, depending on some of the utility work, the timing on that. But we expect that that'll be a fall project. Trevor, if you want to jump in and provide a more specific timeline.
Yeah, so pending the site walk, I think we would look to finish the plans, 3 weeks after that. So we have to get that to the DOT. Usually takes the DOT about 2 or 3 weeks to approve the plans, and then we can go out to bid. So I would anticipate bidding it in mid-July and hopefully award at the August meetings. We can start work in September.
Thanks.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to open to the public with 5 minutes max per person, please?
Motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
First, we'll go by video. Show of hands. Mr. Graham? You're muted, Mr. Graham.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, Elmer Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. A few things. First of all, as far as the budget goes, I definitely agree with Councilwoman Davidson's vote on the budget. This budget needs to be more beneficial to taxpayers of Keyport, and I definitely agree with her vote on it.
You didn't like
okay.
us reducing the tax rate, Elmer?
Well, I just think my honest opinion is I think it didn't go far enough and stuff like that, but that's my honest opinion. That's how I feel. Okay, as far as on the Veterans Committee goes, any more meetings scheduled for that?
No, but some of the initiatives are being discussed that we talked about 2 weeks ago.
Okay, and one last thing on the Complete Streets Initiative in front of the cornucopia there. It's excellent project and stuff like that, but I agree with Mr. Lane. There should be sidewalks there and everything like that. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Graham.
Thank you.
Anyone else by show of hands that's on video? Next, we go to the phone lines.
John Merla, 34 Broad Street.
All right, John.
Just going to direct the first question to the borough attorney, since she did the legwork for communications number 7 in reference to New Jersey Act allowing this event to take place on borough property versus a borough building. Ms. London, are you familiar with that facility that the event is going to be held on?
If you want to forward any questions to me, that's fine.
Okay. Is Ms. London aware that of the research that she did concerning the number 7 allowing a political event on borough property? She referenced the New Jersey Act.
She referenced the Jersey Act regarding the fact whether something is different from inside a public building or outside.
Yes.
Correct.
So-
She already went through that.
Okay, no. That's what I'm asking. I'm asking if she referenced the act, is she also aware that that property is on Green Acres inventory and the rules and regulations of Green Acres regarding political events on inventoried Green Acre property? What the rules and regulations are?
Miss London.
Yes, my conversation or my research was done on a general question regarding whether political events could occur on public property and what constitutes a public property. So to your question of whether or not I researched Green Acres specifically, the answer is no.
Okay, I thank you. Just to follow up regarding Maple and Church. I know there's been some discussion tonight, and there's been, it's been said that there's a lot of support for the project. And to be honest with you, there is some support and there is some non-support. But what I believe in is that this can be, if properly planned, maybe a good project for Keyport. However, I do also believe the temporary utilization of that property, meaning Maple and Church, was very poor planning. And when I say that, it's because stop signs in the borough of Keyport are created by ordinance. And when you create a stop sign by ordinance, you have to tell how many feet from the intersection that stop sign will be placed. And the stop sign on Church Street was covered with a plastic bag and duct tape as a temporary stop sign was put up approximately 15 feet, 8 inches further up Church Street. Now, here's my main concern. My main concern is I don't even think it's legal to cover an existing stop sign that's been created by ordinance, whether it's a temporary or non-temporary use. Second question I brought to the mayor and Councilmember Davidson's attention the day I drove by. The temporary sign was laying face down and the other stop sign was covered. I just think there should have been a little bit better planning. The fire department could have been notified before. The residents of Church Street that utilize that property every day could have been notified before. And to say that, well, I was up there for 2 hours and we have video also. I know it was very nice of Dennis to go live. I even heard one of the cars passing by saying somebody's going to get killed. Somebody could get killed. However, my concerns are safety. And from a very poor planned outlook, from what I see, I see people driving the bikes straight up Atlantic Street, never even turning onto the passway. I also seen baby carriages. So those track marks weren't all from bicycles. However, properly planned, I think that project could be good if we follow all the safety rules and regulations. And my last comment is to Councilmember McDermott. It's regarding the library. The library currently has a vacancy, and all I'm looking for is the salary of the director. Do you know who created that? Was that Borough or was that the Library Board of Trustees?
Councilman McDermott doesn't serve on the library board of
Oh, I'm
trustees.
sorry. I thought next to her council, it said library.
It only says
Next
library
to her name.
construction. They
What's that?
appointed her for the library construction, that's all.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that.
So
Who
I
serves
can
on the
answer that
library?
question though.
Okay.
The library board of trustees set that salary, not the borough.
Okay, so is there a member of the council that serves as a liaison to the library?
That's the mayor. I serve on there.
Oh, okay. And then Mayor, let me ask you this question. Did the library do an audit this year?
Yes,
And that's available to the public, right?
yes.
Okay.
Well,
Thank
within
you
the
for-
last year,
Yes,
right.
thank you very much.
No problem. Can, I know his time is up, but I would, if you can just stay on one more second, Mr. Murla. In regards to his question, Ms. London, I know the motion was approved for item number 7, but can I ask if you would mind doing research on the Green Acres? And if it turns out that it's not permissible and it is part of a Green Acres process, property, can that, can we do a hold on that approval until that's checked, or because it's already approved?
You can unprove it. When is the event? I didn't recall the date.
Saturday.
May 22nd.
Saturday.
Okay, I can find out the information. Actually, I was just texting someone now to see if they could tell me very quickly. If I can get the answer in the next few minutes, I could tell you. Otherwise, I should have an answer tomorrow.
And we can just circulate that to the governing body, send it to Jay and send that. So Michelle, can you hold off on announcing that approval until we have that confirmation? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mo. Any other members on the phone line?
Michael Lane,
Hi, Mr. Lane.
Mayor and Council, a couple of things. Jay, thank you for the update on the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. I keep watching. Secondly, you talked about Church Street sidewalks and paving. Is the council aware that there's an application before the planning board where T&M is the engineer to put 4 new dwelling units, 2 duplexes on Church Street and 6 more on Osborne Street, all fed off the utilities? And so it seems to me that the utility plan, if the street gets paid, we know they can't open it again. So that, I think you need to work that into the equation. Aero Marine bulkhead. The council adopted the county multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. And that hazard mitigation plan spells out very clearly that you can't let the erosion continue at Aero Marine. And when I brought it up for Mr. Good, again, has that issue been brought up with the owner of Aero Marine?
Mr. Lane, as I noted previously, there is active litigation with regard to Aero Marine, so we can't exactly discuss what is or isn't going on with that.
So you can't tell me whether that issue is on the table.
There's active litigation going on, so we can't discuss that.
All right. Well, I certainly hope it's on the table. Finally, the budget was discussed, a lot of items. Is this budget going to be posted on the Borough website as approved?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
That's all I had.
Thank you. Ms. Kovacs?
Sorry, Jacqueline Kovacs Wilson, 45 Church Street. I just had a comment on the complete streets situation at the end of the block. A little bit of a nightmare, especially coming through there at night. I think they should really consider working with the county and pave the section of the old railroad right away that belongs to the county. That little strip of land between Church Street and Atlantic Street, that's like a dirt lot. That belongs with the trail.
Yeah.
And that would clear some of that up. You could have them pave that. I'm not that speed. You could have them pave that. And then you could put a crosswalk across to where the old cornucopia was and tie it in with the other crosswalk on the other side of the street that falls in line by Fisher's boarding home to get to the trail. And it would solve getting a lot of people out of the street. There are a lot other busier roads through other towns that that trail crosses, like Thompson Avenue, Port Monmouth Road. I forget the road in Highlands that it crosses, and they don't have these issues. And they're way more busier than Church and Atlantic Street are. And people use common sense. If it's dangerous, get off your bike and cross the street and walk your bike. So, and the other thing that,
you stopped talking, so I thought you were done.
okay. My other comment is on the Church Street project. It really needs to include sidewalks and curbing besides the paving. Just like all the other streets that got done in this area, all got sidewalks. It's not fair to the residents on this street. And that's it.
Thank you. Just real quick, the conversations to have that area that you're talking about, that's like the quote dead square. Those conversations have been ongoing with the county since March of 2018. And they weren't open to doing that. So we are definitely continuing those conversations with them. So this was something else to bring back to them to see if they would be amenable to this temporary demonstration project and see what we can take away from it as lessons or potentials.
Right, and if I can add, sorry, Mayor.
And in regards to Church Street, Jay or Trevor, is there a reason sidewalk conditions weren't originally put into the review like they were for Main Street?
Mayor, I can't speak to what was originally part of the scope of work when the project was first considered and the grant applications submitted for that. But the overall condition of curbs, sidewalks, handicap access, and frankly, to incorporate or at least to consider some of the concepts and concerns that have resulted from the Complete Streets project plan are part of the review that we will undertake when as part of the preliminary plans are reviewed. I can't, again, speak to your specific question as to, the original scope and what was included or expected to be included.
Mr. Taylor, would you be able, how long would that take for you? Or how would that change the scope of work for you to do an evaluation of the sidewalks on Church Street? I know when Main Street got done, not all of the sidewalks needed to be improved. And there were several residents on Main Street that did not want their sidewalks touched. And they didn't have theirs. And we did the aprons, I think, on some of the properties. Can you speak to this, please?
Sure. So on Church Street, I think similar to Main Street, we proposed replacing all the curbs and the aprons that are attached to the curb, because we can't replace the curbs without replacing the aprons, obviously, because the aprons touch the curb. I believe on Main Street, there are some properties where the sidewalk also connected to the curb. So most properties have a strip of grass or brick pavers between the curb and the sidewalk. So obviously, when we replace the curb, similar to the aprons, if there's sidewalk that's attached to the curb, sometimes we end up having to take a portion of the sidewalk out with the curb. And in those instances, we would have to replace the curb. Replace the sidewalk. But I can go back and revisit some of the other streets and see what was done in that neighborhood. But my recollection was most of the roads that we have done, unless it's specifically for ADA access, which some of the CDBG grants are, typically we've done the curb and the aprons and not all the sidewalk.
Ms. London, can you speak to what you've
Mayor, I think you're muted again. There.
Ms. London, can you speak to what you have looked into regarding sidewalks? Because this is a multiple faceted question that keeps coming up throughout the borough, both in the business district as well as residential.
Again, very general in the sense that the property owner abutting the street is responsible, and your ordinance provides for that. And also Jay had asked about whether it was a county or state highway. Would that make a difference? There are a few exceptions, but generally it is the property owner abutting the, that has the responsibility for the sidewalk.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just say one additional thing? You're talking about Main Street, but when 3rd Street was done, when Osborne was done, when Division was done, they all got sidewalks and curbing.
Becky, I was on Third and they did it, and my sidewalk didn't get redone. I mean, it didn't.
What?
My sidewalk didn't get redone when they did Third.
Okay, but
Well, all Division and all of Osborne got sidewalks done.
Trevor, can you please look into those projects and see what?
Yeah, I'll look. I know
they had.
I'm sorry, Mayor. On Division, where there's grade changes, obviously there's grade changes, and we change the elevation of the curb, the sidewalk has to be modified as well in order to connect to the new curb line. I'm not familiar with, was it Osborne, I think, the 2nd Street?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, I'll take a look at Osborne.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kovacs. Anyone else on the phone lines?
This Mike Lane again on the sidewalks. When Mayor Bergen was around, he pushed on the residents on First Street between Broad and Church very hard for us to sign up to have our sidewalks done at the same time the curbs were done and brick pavers put in. And he set up a financial program where the residents could have a loan that they paid back over a number of years, or you could make a lump sum payment. So maybe that's an alternative to look at.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. Anyone else on the phone lines? Going back through, phone or video, going once, going twice. Can I have a motion to close to the public?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, with that, if we can have a motion to adjourn, wishing everyone a safe Memorial Day weekend.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.